SpaceX launched another 54 Starlink internet satellites into orbit from Cape Canaveral on Saturday night, breaking the record for the heaviest payload ever launched by a Falcon 9 rocket. The launch came just days after SpaceX and T-Mobile announced their plans to use a new generation of Starlink spacecraft to provide seamless connectivity to existing cell phones. Welcome to Tech Heaven, and in this video we'll take a look at everything you need to know about the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Curious to know? Let's find out. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket delivered a batch of operational Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit for the 57th time, marking the vehicle's 50th successful launch in 367 days. The Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at 11:41 p.m. EDT Saturday, marking SpaceX's 38th launch of the year. After 15 minutes, the Falcon 9's upper stage released a stack of Starlink internet satellites into an orbit ranging from 144 to 208 miles. The launch vehicle was designed to have an orbital inclination of 53.2 degrees to the equator. Saturday night's weather was iffy, with thunderstorms and lightning in the area around the launch base. Due to the storms, SpaceX missed a launch opportunity at 10:22 p.m. EDT, but weather improved for the second of two launch times available Saturday at 11:41 p.m. The Starlink 423 launch on Saturday night carried 54 Starlink payloads, one more than SpaceX's recent missions to the same orbit. To increase the Falcon 9's lift capability, SpaceX has experimented with engine throttle settings and other minor upgrades. The 53 satellites on recent Starlink flights pushed the rocket's payload performance to new heights, representing the heaviest payloads ever launched on a Falcon 9. The Starlink 423 mission launched about 33 hours before NASA's scheduled launch of the massive Artemis 1 moon rocket from nearby Kennedy Space Center. Starlink's SSO satellites will help fill coverage gaps all over the world, but they will be especially optimal for serving customers at high latitudes, including the Arctic and Antarctic, because they will orbit Earth at an inclination of 97.6 degrees, where 90 degrees would be a perfect polar orbit. When the constellation's orbital laser link network is operational, Starlink will be able to connect customers who are out of range of the network's ground stations by routing communications through other satellites until a station comes into range. That could be a boon for ultra-remote outposts like those in Antarctica, where the harsh weather, sheer size of the continent, and small population make ground station construction difficult to justify. Semi-polar satellites such as those launched by SpaceX today will eventually enable a more cost-effective solution. Following Starlink 3.4, SpaceX now has over 2,900 operational Starlink satellites in orbit, accounting for approximately 66% of the total 4,408 satellite constellation. According to astrophysicist Jonathan McDowell, nearly 2,400 satellites, or more than a half of the final constellation, have reached deployable orbits and are serving customers on Earth. Starlink launches became operational for SpaceX less than 3 years ago. The fifth shell of SpaceX's first Starlink constellation will eventually be constructed in an almost identical Sun-synchronous orbit populated by another 172 satellites. According to FCC rules, the company was required to launch half of the constellation by March 2024 and all 4,408 satellites by March 2027. By the way, if you're watching us for the first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can enjoy our future videos while getting updated. Getting back to the topic, Starlink version 2, the new Starlink satellite design, is approximately 23 inches across. It will have the similar Ku band and Ka band and laser communications antennas as the current generation of Starlink satellites, but it will also have a deployable cell spectrum antenna measuring approximately 270 square feet, according to Musk. That large antenna will be sensitive enough to pick up on faint signals from existing cell phones. The Starlink version 2 network, according to Musk, will beam about 2 to 4 megabits of bandwidth to be shared among users within a specific region or cell zone. Musk claims that this is sufficient for texting, images, voice calls, and in some cases, video streaming. So far, SpaceX has concentrated on residential customers for the Starlink network, which uses a phased array antenna pointing skyward to connect with satellites passing overhead. The Federal Communications Commission recently granted SpaceX regulatory approval to provide Starlink service via antenna terminals mounted on cars, RVs, ships, and airplanes. SpaceX and T-Mobile hope to have the Starlink version 2 system operational by the end of 2023 in order to begin beta testing. The Starship launch vehicle that SpaceX intends to use for Starlink version 2 satellite launches has not yet flown into orbit. Musk stated that SpaceX is considering developing a smaller version of the Starlink version 2 satellite that can fit on a Falcon 9 rocket if the Starship program is delayed longer than expected. The standard Starlink version 2 design is too big for a Falcon 9 launch. SpaceX launched 3,162 Starlink internet satellites, including prototypes and test units that are no longer in service on Saturday night's Starlink 423 mission. Saturday's launch was the 57th SpaceX mission, with the primary goal of launching Starlink internet satellites into orbit. At T-35 minutes, SpaceX's launch team began loading super-chilled densified kerosene and liquid oxygen propellants into the 229-foot-tall Falcon 9 vehicle from a launch control center just south of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. During the final half hour of the countdown, a helium pressurant was also pumped into the rocket. The Falcon 9's Merlin main engines were thermally conditioned for flight in the final 7 minutes before liftoff, a process known as chill-down. The Falcon 9's guidance and range safety systems were also ready to go. Following liftoff, the Falcon 9 rocket directed its 1.7 million pounds of thrust produced by 9 Merlin engines northeast over the Atlantic Ocean. The rocket broke the sound barrier in about 1 minute and then shut down its 9 main engines 2.5 minutes later. The Falcon 9's upper stage released the booster stage, which then fired pulses from cold gas control thrusters and extended titanium grid fins to help guide the vehicle back into the atmosphere. 2 braking burns slowed the rocket for an 8.5-minute landing on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas around 400 miles downrange. In SpaceX's inventory, the first stage for Saturday's launch is designated B1069. After sustaining damage during recovery on a drone ship following its first mission, which sent a Dragon cargo ship towards the International Space Station on December 21st, the booster completed its second flight to space. The rough recovery damaged the rocket's engine and landing legs, causing the rocket to tilt on its return to Port Canaveral aboard the drone ship. Due to the damage, SpaceX and NASA were forced to use a backup Falcon 9 booster for the April launch of 4 astronauts to the space station. Originally, that launch was supposed to use B1069, which had been refurbished with new engines and other components. During the second stage burn, the Falcon 9's reusable payload fairing was jettisoned. A recovery ship was also stationed in the Atlantic to recover the nose cone's 2 halves after they landed using parachutes. The Falcon 9 first stage landed moments after the second stage engine cutoff to deliver the Starlink satellites into orbit on Saturday's mission. The 54 Starlink spacecraft, built by SpaceX in Redmond, Washington, separated from Falcon 9 rocket at T+15 minutes 21 seconds. Retention rods were released from the Starlink payload stack, allowing the flat-packed satellites to fly free from the upper stage of the Falcon 9. The 54 spacecraft will deploy solar arrays and go through automated activation procedures before using krypton-fueled ion engines to enter operational orbit. The Falcon 9's guidance computer directed the satellites into an elliptical orbit with 53.2-degree inclination to the equator. The satellites will use onboard propulsion to reach a circular orbit 335 miles above the Earth. The Starlink satellites will fly in one of 5 different orbital shells for SpaceX's global internet network. After reaching operational orbit, the satellites will begin beaming broadband signals to consumers who can purchase Starlink service and connect to the network using a SpaceX-supplied ground terminal. And with that being said, it's time to end our video. But before that, we'd like to know your thoughts about SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Let us know in the comments. Like this video and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos like this. We'll see you in the next video.